first, let's talk about how Europe has been on an edge. Diplomatic warnings have been given, air defenses are on an alert, and fears are rising across Ukraine. Russia says that new strikes on military targets in Kyiv have begun, even asking for evacuations from the region. While the foreign missions weigh the risks of staying put, the war grinds on. Our next report gets you more.
The atmosphere in Kyiv is tense. Sirens continue to sound across the Ukrainian capital. Ukrainian military commanders prepare for what could be another intense phase of the war. The concern is about what may come next. The war has already entered a dangerous phase where Russia unleashed nuclear-capable Oreshnik missile on Ukraine. This after Moscow said that Ukraine deliberately targeted a school, killing 21 students. Kyiv denies the charge. Russia has now warned, calling for foreign diplomats to flee the Ukrainian capital. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov has informed U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio that Russian forces have begun strikes against military sites and decision-making centers in Kyiv. Now, delegations from the European Union, France and Poland have indicated that they do not intend to leave.
No, that's out of the question. This is yet another act of intimidation from Moscow. We're used to it, but we won't accept it. This latest act of intimidation is even more scandalous because Russia, as a permanent member of the UN Security Council and as a co-belligerent, must ensure the protection of Ukrainian civilians as well as foreign embassy.
We are currently telling our partners that there is no need to give in to this Russian blackmail. We have been through all of this before, and we know when he, Russian President Vladimir Putin, amps up this rhetoric.
For Ukraine, that carries symbolic importance. For Russia, the strikes are presented as part of a broader military campaign targeting infrastructure linked to Ukraine's war effort. For Europe, the situation highlights a difficult reality. Every new warning, every fresh barrage, and every military announcement increases uncertainty about where the war is heading next. The war has entered another tense chapter, and Europe is watching closely. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Shifting our focus now to Ebola. The Ebola infections are increasingly rapidly and outpacing containment efforts, and the World Health Organization has recorded 10 confirmed deaths as well as 220 suspected deaths since mid-May. The outbreak now includes more than 900 suspected cases. WHO chief has underlined how the epidemic in DR Congo is becoming extremely serious and difficult with every passing day. Now, as Ebola infections remain on the rise, the WHO chief is set to visit DR Congo to take stock of the situation. Several aid agencies have flown tons of relief into Bunia to help the hardest hit towns. However, responders face deep community mistrust. Locals have reportedly burned down 2 of the 3 treatment centers established in those towns, and funding shortfalls are making the response harder. In fact, in Bunia, teams of health workers in full protective gear are conducting dignified and safe burials to reduce transmission at funerals. An Ebola outbreak was declared in Congo's Ituri on the 15th of May, with Bunia among the main areas that have been affected. Apart from the DRC, confirmed cases of Ebola infections have been reported in Uganda as well. As infections spark an international health alert, Thailand has now imposed a 21-day quarantine order for people traveling from or having tested through DR Congo or Uganda, where a deadly Ebola crisis is surging. Thailand says the country has not reported any Ebola-affected travelers yet, and there is a risk from global population movement. That is why this arrangement has been done. In Uganda, one person has died, with a further 6 confirmed as infected. What about India? Well, India's aviation watchdog, the DGCA, has asked airlines to implement various measures as well. As part of the standard operating procedure, airlines having direct or indirect connectivity with Uganda and DR Congo are required to make mandatory filing and collection of self-declaration forms prior to deboarding of passengers. In-flight as well as arrival protocols for suspected cases have also been specified by the DGCA, including that in such instances the aircraft should be parked in a separate designated bay. Health authorities initially tested for the Zaire strain, but they later discovered the cause is a much rarer Bundibugyo strain, allowing the virus to spread undetected for weeks. DR Congo declared an Ebola outbreak on the 15th of May. This outbreak has been caused by the Bundibugyo strain of the virus, which has no approved vaccine or treatment yet. Europe is facing an extraordinary early season heat wave. Temperatures are smashing records, streets are emptying, and forecasters are now warning of a mini version of hell. At the center of it all is a powerful weather phenomena known as heat dome. Our next report brings you all the details.
Hot weather has already hit Europe, the start of a heat wave. France and the UK logged their hottest May temperatures on record. The UK has recorded its all-time highest May temperature as part of London reached 34.8 degrees Celsius, the hottest May day on record. Temperatures in London normally average about 17 or 18 degrees Celsius at this time of year. Temperatures in Spain were expected to peak later this week at 38 degrees Celsius. Restrictions on outdoor work were imposed in parts of Italy. Beaches in southwest France filled earlier than usual. Scientists say human-driven climate change is amplifying such extremes, with Europe warming faster than the global average.
This is something we've been noticing for several decades, meaning the phenomenon is cumulative, and clearly, each time we see higher thresholds of temperature or drought.
It has, I think, gotten hotter here since I moved in 2019, and it's getting hotter and hotter, and it does kind of raise important issues about climate change. And the impacts that the climate change is having not only kind of on civilian population here in London, but overall on the farmers, on the wildlife, on how the animals are surviving.
The weather phenomenon is being described by some scientists as a heat dome, with pressure trapping hot air over countries like a lid.
This area of high pressure sitting over Western Europe, including the UK, and that means that everything sinks down. So the air is sinking and heating up as it sinks, and killing off the clouds as it sinks as well. And that all traps heat near the surface, a bit like putting a blanket over everything. And that allows that warming to build over several days.
The British Heart Foundation is warning hot weather can present specific risks for people with heart conditions. The immediate danger of this early extreme weather is severely amplified by regional infrastructure that is utterly unequipped for the crisis, and that presents a unique challenge for Europe. Unlike many parts of Asia or West Asia, much of Europe was built to retain heat, not repel it. Homes, schools, offices, and public transport systems were designed for cold winters rather than prolonged periods above 30 degrees Celsius. That means when a heat dome arrives, the temperatures can feel even more punishing. For millions across Europe, this is not just a hot week. It is a warning of what future summers may increasingly look like. Bureau Report WION World is one.